Getting good at the guitar can take years, even decades, and hours upon hours of deliberate practice. Years, even decades, hours upon hours of deliberate practice. But what if I told you that there are 5 things that you can be doing today to instantaneously transform your sound for the better? These are tips that took me years to fully realize and take advantage of in my own playing. Especially tip number 5, which in my opinion is the most important tip of this video, and it's actually something that I'm still working on today. But in today's video, I'm going to give away all of this hard-earned knowledge for free. So pay attention. Tip number 1, fingers behind the frets, right behind them. This tip is going to dramatically clean up your playing and wipe away any buzzing or muted sounds when you're strumming, plucking, or picking. So if we go back to the basics of how a guitar works, when we place our finger between 2 frets and push the string down, we force the string to come in contact with the fret in front of our fingers. This effectively shortens the portion of the string that is actually vibrating, making the pitch sound higher to our ears. What happens if a string isn't all the way down against the fret though? That's when we get a buzzing or muted sound, and it generally isn't very pleasant. We can fix this by pushing down harder on the fret, forcing the string down, but this presents us with even more problems. Because 1, if you push down that hard, it can actually bend the string out of tune, and 2, it can be very physically taxing to bend down that hard on every single note you play, and who wants to do that anyways? This is where tip number 1 comes into play, so pay attention. If we simply slide our fretting finger up the neck while staying behind the fret, we now don't have to press down as hard to get a nice, clean sound, and we're avoiding all the aforementioned problems. Be careful not to fret on top of the fret though, because this can create a muted sound as well. I really encourage you to try out this tip yourself, especially if it's something that you weren't aware of previously, because it can really clean up your playing like magic. Tip number 2, mute strings that don't add to the sound. Now this is one of the best tips on the list, and for good reason. It's going to stay with you for your entire guitar journey from absolute beginner to even advanced and pro level. Now when I say mute the strings that don't add to the sound, this can mean a lot of different things. And that's exactly the point. This tip is super versatile in cleaning up your playing in a whole plethora of areas, from just basic chord changes to soloing and single note fretting, to everything in between. We'll take basic chord changes for an easy example. There is a massive difference between this and this. Or how about more advanced finger picking? Take a listen to how much cleaner it sounds when I just mute the strings that aren't adding to the sound I'm trying to create. So the way that you're going to mute unnecessary string noises really depends on the situation. Sometimes it might be with the fingers on your fretting hand. Other times it might be with the fingers on your picking hand, or the palm of your picking hand. Sometimes it might even be with a sock or a fret wrap down here. Which one I use depends on what I'm doing with my other fingers and what feels easiest to me in that moment. But in any case, the general concept is the same. All I'm doing is muffling the vibration of the string that I don't want to ring out, thus cutting off the sound. Like I said, this technique has many layers to it, and you'll see it grow with you as you develop as a guitar player. Tip number 3, have a high fretboard to fretting hand angle. This tip is especially important to those of you with big fingers, but it really applies to everyone. What I mean by a high fretboard to finger angle is this. See the difference? When we come in at a higher fretting angle, then now we're using our thumb to support our fretting hand rather than the palm of our hand, which can often interfere with the high E string and other high strings down there and cause these unwanted muting and buzzing noises. As well as when we're using this higher fretting angle, now we're coming in with our fingertips on the frets instead of more of the flat of our fingers, which requires more space, and therefore it's going to interfere with more of the strings and create, once again, that kind of buzzing and unwanted string noises that we're really looking to just clean up. Let me show you what kind of a difference this will make for your sound. Even just being a little bit lazy with your fretting hand when it comes to playing certain chords and riffs can make things a lot harder. So always keep this in the back of your mind. You want to come in at a high fretting angle. Tip number 4, use a pick or long nails. This is a tip that can definitely be argued against, but for me personally, in general, I tend to prefer the sound of fingernails or a pick plucking against the strings as opposed to just the flesh of your finger. This is because with a pick or fingernails, there is generally more volume, you get a cleaner tone and a faster attack. Just take a listen. I will say for this tip though, to use it as a tool and not the rule, right? Like in the end, music is just creative expression. So if you're trying to create a certain song or elicit a specific emotion and you think it calls for that softer sound that the flesh of your fingers can provide, then go for it. And now tip number 5. I said at the beginning of the video that this is probably the most important tip of them all, and I'd say that this is probably the main thing that differentiates a pro guitar player from a beginner guitar player, even if they're playing the exact same notes. And it is, be intentional with the character of your playing. Now once again, the character of your playing can mean a lot of different things. For one, it's the volume. Are you playing loudly or softly? More importantly, why? Are you trying to build tension, create a feeling of happiness? Secondly, it's your speed. Are you playing fast or slow? But more importantly, why? And lastly, and this one applies more to fingerstyle than anything else, is the positioning of your picking hand. Are you playing close to the bridge, directly over the sound hole, up on the neck? But most importantly, why are you making that specific decision? Let me show you an example. Here are 2 tracks, one with intention and one without. And that's it. I hope that this video was able to provide you with something new to add to your guitar toolkit, and I will see you guys in the next one.